With a 31% pullback, XRP has now seen a recovery of over 17%. In this video, we're going to dive into what to expect next for XRP. If you find it useful and informative, then hit the like button. I really do appreciate that. If you are new to the channel, then do subscribe, tap the bell, select all notifications, and in doing so, you will stay up to date with everything that we do here. Right. With this said, done, out of the way, let's dive into the technical analysis here on XRP. Now, we'll try to keep this as brief as we can, guys. I want to just talk about what's going on with the weekly chart here. So we can obviously see there is a good amount of traction to the upside for this bull run so far. Obviously, we have the previous high on this fib and the bear market low. This was around March of 2020. And this actually is indicating about a $16 move, just short of that, at $15.91. That would be from our current position up to that area there, 1,334% in gains. Now, in order for us to see this kind of thing come to fruition, we need to see a pretty good settlement or good outcome from the SEC versus Ripple lawsuit. So for this scenario over here on the left-hand side, we do need to kind of see something happen there. If we do not see that, then I think this is off the cards for this year. But it is some interesting areas on this side over here, taking the current performance into consideration. And I'm going to take a look at that on the smaller time frames. On this weekly, I really wanted to say that ultimately there is a nice move to the upside that is possible, but I do think we need to see some form of clarity from the US first. And with that would come new listings, new exchanges and partnerships and various other use cases cropping up here for XRP. So overall, I think this is very much achievable. Market cap will have no bearing on price discovery. We spoke about this many times over. Market capitalization doesn't do anything more than just try to kind of calculate your current price. Obviously, the true way to get price discovery is a squeeze on the supply, and of course create some kind of demand, some high demand for the project. So with a squeeze on the supply and the demand, we could see this actually happen, but we need to see, obviously, in my opinion, that SEC lawsuit gets squashed and with a good outcome for XRP. Ultimately, don't think it really matters too much whether or not XRP gets classed as a security. It just needs clarity one way or another, and I think we'll be good to go from there. Overall, everything is gearing up nicely on this weekly chart. We can see that we were overbought here, just had a small pullback recently, which I said there was that 31%. And we're looking to still track up in this overbought area before we actually pull back. And we can see what happens here when we have a nice push to the upside. We have a medium correction with a sideways trade here, taking us down to the oversold area, and then we surge on up again. And obviously, we can see the kind of traction that's happened in the past. So right now, everything kind of looking pretty good to play for, but there is obviously still this downward trend we have to acknowledge, along with our upward trend. And those two things coming together are going to be interesting. Okay, so let's jump down into our daily. Now we obviously know what's going on with our weekly chart, and here we can get a little bit more of the clarity over what's going on most recently, right? And when we take into consideration the current performance, we take the high and the low points, for example, this actually then shows us some interesting zones. Now, arguably, we could actually lift this up a little bit and take this over to this high, which would make a lot more sense. So I will just do that for this example of this video. Okay, and obviously we have got this area here. This is obviously an interesting Fibonacci retracement. So obviously I just moved the chart, and this was an interesting zone for the 618, 702, etc. Right? And actually what we look about it here, we can actually see that we're wicking right up to the 618 and getting rejected from here, okay, and then finding the support in the 107. So overall, this is actually a pretty interesting zone that we want to pay attention to. So I am going to go ahead and move our yellow box over to this area as things are starting to progress in the need for doing that. So we're going to just line this up to the 618, the 702, and the 786. This is the area that we're looking to get the closed candle above, and which will be a big bull signal taking us to the next level. Okay, so overall, everything here on the daily is kind of lined up nicely to our high and our low, and this is basically representing our current performance. Okay, so from here we can actually then take a look at where we think things are likely to go. And this gives us those extension levels, but on a slightly different kind of price expectations. So if the lawsuit doesn't end before the bull run, then I do think the likelihood is that we're only going to see about $6.68 as a peak for XRP. And again, that's a pretty good bump on the previous all-time high, and that's something I can see happening here as we kind of get through these next legs. And I think people will be willing to kind of FOMO in to a project and thinking that we are going to close that case and then absolutely go for a bit of a tear to the upside. Overall, this is like my worst case scenario, somewhere between that $5 $5.78, and that's $6.68 if we were able to go for the full extension of the 4.236. Overall, nothing really too major to report on this particular chart, other than the fact that we were rejected from the 618 there. And if we actually drill down a little bit lower here, we can see that we're finding good support right now on our 702, and we've had a good surge to the upside since we were down in the lower areas. So again, that rejection came in. Obviously, there's lots of areas of resistance right now, and we really want to be focusing in on trying to get above. And again, that's going to be something that we're going to really be able to review on the smaller time frames. When we take a look at the stochastic, we're down in the oversold area, so plenty of room to grow to the upside. Overall, this is an area that we've been down previously for quite some time, but again, we are looking to actually go back up into this overbought area where we can track to see massive gains to the upside and massive push to the upside in the long run. Overall, I do expect some more volatility on the shorter time frames, and we're going to jump into the 𝗕𝗓 dashboard in a moment, just to talk about what that AI and machine learning is also indicating to us from the underlying data. Charts are great, indicators are great, but sometimes you need to see what else is going on in the background, and that is where the advice.io dashboard really comes in. Here we can see that Ripple XRP is down at a B1 rating. Okay, so again, it's okay, it's an okay rating, not the best, but not the worst. And there are some interesting things that are going on here that's also worth noting. We can see over here the fear and greed index that is specific to XRP. This is actually rated as D, which means it's extremely fearful. So there's lots of fear up for sale. Even though the needle has been moving to the upside today, I think this is courtesy of Bitcoin pushing the market back up. We have to note that ultimately XRP here is quite fearful, and the people who have invested in XRP are basically creating a sentiment that is indicating fear. So we want to be mindful that ultimately people might not be willing to buy in right now. But with that being said, though, this is usually the fantastic opportunities that present themselves when you start to see a very, very fearful market, specifically in a bull run. And we know that we're pushing into the fifth wave. This is indicating a pretty good move and a good place to potentially be buying up some XRP if you want to dollar cost average better positions and all of that kind of good stuff. For me personally, my bags are packed. XRP is my biggest position. And as such, I have no intention of buying any more, but if I did, this would be an interesting indicator for me to look at. Overall, the AMI-HAD ratio is an A2 rating, so no problems with liquidity. The moving averages, A2, no problem with averages. We can see the peak end value demand is at B2, so pretty neutral, not too bad either. The return on investment here is an A1 rating, so no problem there. The Sharpe ratio, A2, as in, is there any risk-reward ratio? Is there an issue with that? No, there isn't. Again, well above the 50-day average here, tracking nicely. So the indicator that is odd and out of kilter is definitely the fear and greed index. I think seeing everything go on with a 31% drop has really shaken the market, but this is actually, the anomaly within the space, because overall, all these other indicators, the underlying data isn't indicating any issues whatsoever. Overall, this is fear that I would be buying if I was in this mood for some more XRP. So overall, nothing really major to report from the advice.io dashboard, other than the fact that the fear and greed index is definitely not aligned to the rest of the data. Okay, it's that point in the video where we want to talk about being safe in the crypto space. We see a lot of scam activity and want to ensure our cheeky community are as safe as possible and prevent anyone from losing their crypto. There are many different scams in the space, but one of the most common and easy to avoid are those hacked wallets and exchanges being hacked themselves. This is where hardware wallets come in. When it comes to choosing a crypto wallet, there is no perfect solution. And no matter which kind of wallet you do choose, if you don't understand the basics of security, you can still become a target of bad actors. Now, like I said, we like hardware wallets because they minimize the risks that we cannot control, such as major data breaches at cryptocurrency exchanges or malware that exploits the zero-day vulnerabilities in mobile and desktop operating systems. To be clear though, hardware wallets are not perfectly safe. They will give you an added level of security and protection though. We do like to use the Ledger devices. We have Ledger Nano S and X on this channel, and these are for a good bang for your buck when it comes to keeping your crypto safe and secure. There are two models, the Ledger Nano X and the Ledger Nano S. The X uses Bluetooth and can be used with your mobile, where the Ledger Nano S, it does require you to actually plug it into a laptop. Those are the two main versions, and we actually use both of them as some cryptocurrencies only work with the Ledger Nano S currently. The Ledger Nano S is smaller, however, with a limit on the amount of different coins that you can hold, whereas the Ledger Nano X can hold up to 100 different cryptocurrencies. You often find yourself having a trade-off between the kind of hardware wallet that you want to buy and obviously the ones that do everything you absolutely need them to do. Now, when it comes to cost and availability, I do find that Ledger is a little bit easier to kind of come by and is more affordable to the everyday individual and investor. When it comes to buying a hardware wallet, we do suggest you research the different types and brands, and I cannot stress this part enough. Only order directly from the manufacturer, as there are many fake hardware wallets out there. If you are interested in a hardware wallet, there is a link to Ledger's official website in the description below. You will be able to find out more details about how to keep your crypto safe there. Guys, let's continue with the video. So when we jump back into the charts here and we see a move to the upside here, this is interesting because obviously there's a lot of fear in the space and some smart money is potentially buying it up. When we actually jump down into our hourly view, this is where we start to see that price action in a little bit more detail. Okay, so I'm going to zoom out for a moment. We can see that there was this upward trend that we were tracking. We're tracking nicely coming up to that 618 area and got rejected with Bitcoin's pullback. We then stabilized above the 702. We actually formed an upward trend and a downward trend here. And again, we were looking for that breakout and we actually saw that recently. It was more of a sideways trade, but it invalidated our downward trend line, which was good to see. So this here, basically, we were testing the higher and lower trend lines. And then we saw a break to the upside, finding the resistance here on the $1.07. We broke that and basically we're just trading in between the support and resistance. We'll just flip in between it and then we started to get a good traction today. Now here you can see the stochastic is overbought, so we will be looking for a small pullback, and what we want to do is actually lose the momentum behind it. We don't want to increase the volume too much with that pullback. Here we can see the volumes are actually decreasing as we were pushing the price up, which is unfortunate. So right now we want to keep the volumes low whilst we pull the price down. My expectations would be to pull down to $1.09 before having enough room to actually then start the growth back to the upside. So overall, on the smaller timeframes, we are still expecting volatility. We are expecting a pullback, but long term, we think about the daily, we think about the weekly, everything is gearing up for a pretty good move to the upside, in my opinion. The entire market seems to have woken up again and could be lining up for another run to the upside as we have seen previously. So for XRP here, I don't think it's going to be left behind, but if we want to see those big numbers actually get hit for this one, we do want to see that lawsuit with the SEC and Ripple kind of eventually come to a close, either with settlement or some kind of conclusion. Generally speaking, it's more the unknown that's the hindrance than the actual decision as to whether or not XRP is going to be classed as security or not. Ultimately, I don't think it is. I sit with the UK. It's an exchange token, right? It has absolutely nothing to do with securities. And I think the rest of the US will eventually come to the same conclusion. I think you have to go through this show to really kind of highlight the fact that the SEC really don't understand what a security is at this point when digital assets are concerned, because they are making a bit of a mockery of themselves, and they haven't done the best kind of haven't done themselves justice, shall we say, with how they've actually gone about things. They've definitely embarrassed themselves a few times, and that's really unfortunate for them, but very fortunate for the XRP community. And Ripple, in my opinion, do have a few smoking guns that could lead to some interesting outcomes here for the Ripple case. So overall, until that kind of comes to a close, I expect that we're going to see some interesting things happen, but we won't see those huge numbers. I have my expectations set, guys, right? Like, I'm thinking that we're going to see about this $6.68 without the lawsuit coming to a close. If it comes to a close, then I think we can push for that $16 range with 1,334% in gains. Overall, I'm pretty confident with XRP. I think long term, and it's going to do quite well. Profits will be taken this year, obviously, and then obviously we'll be buying back in the bear market, accumulating once again. So do stick around for that if that's the thing you want to do. Building up solid positions in these projects, do stick around for those. Guys, I'm going to leave the video there. If you have found it useful and informative, hit the like button. I really do appreciate that. If you are new to the channel, then do subscribe, tap the bell, select all notifications, and in doing so, you will be kept up to date with absolutely everything that we do here at Cheeky Crypto. With this said, done, and out of the way, I hope everyone has a fantastic day, and I'll catch you all in the next one.